Okay, this video is going to look at the different assignments that we have due this semester. Again, all of this information is in the syllabus. I'm really just here to talk a little bit more detail and answer any questions that you feel like aren't especially clear. I tried to make it as clear as I could, but you never know. So the first thing you have is the syllabus quiz that's due this first week, and you have 3 chances to take it. So if you take it once and you missed a couple of questions, go take it again. And if for some reason you still missed a question, go back and take it again. I'm only going to count your highest score. So there's really no reason that everyone shouldn't have a 10 out of 10. Again, this is really just my way of collecting receipts so that later if someone comes to me and says like, well, I didn't know, I didn't understand, I can say like, but you totally did because you passed the quiz. So go ahead and do that. I specifically chose the most confusing places in the syllabus and the things that could easily be overlooked or misinterpreted to put there. So if you take the syllabus quiz and you get 10 out of 10, then that's a pretty good sign that you're clear on all the finer points of the class. All right, weekly responses. So every week you're going to be posting to the discussion board with your response to all of the readings from the week before. So you have 3 different options. You can either submit it in essay form, in a video, or in a creative project. So I'll talk about the essay first. That's going to be about 2 or 3 pages, and I want you to address at least 2 significant concepts. And that, for some reason, is the thing students seem to have the most trouble with, so I'm going to dwell a little bit on what constitutes a significant concept. And this is going to matter for all of the assignment types. So even if you're not planning on writing essays, tune in, listen. So I'm talking about important elements of the readings that relate to the way readers might engage with the novel. So as an example, if we're reading I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, a significant concept might be, how is poverty represented? And how might that be read by people from lots of socioeconomic backgrounds? It is not, I don't really think that Julia's family would be able to afford that plane ticket. That's not a significant concept. It's deeper than a comprehension question about the story. So in your essay, you're going to be addressing at least 2 significant concepts that you're grappling with as you're engaging with the week's readings. You don't have to have all the answers. I don't expect you to. Really, this is kind of like a book club. Read the book, read the articles, and then talk about the issues that came up for you. What matters in terms of this novel and how readers might engage with it. That's really what we're trying to get at here. Make sure that you're discussing specific passages from and connections between the readings from the week, and that you're addressing both of the ELOs, and I'll get to that a little bit in the rubric as well. If you're doing a book talk video, it's very similar. It's just that instead of typing it, you're going to be doing a 5 to 7 minute video. For some reason, sometimes students, it looks like they are typing a script and then reading it, which I guess you're allowed to do, but that's a lot of extra work. So just know that I won't penalize you if your video seems like it's not read from a script. Clearly mine isn't, because I keep umming at you. See? So you guys can do that too. It's totally fine. Kind of the point of the book talk video is for people who don't feel as confident writing or don't feel that they express themselves as clearly in writing. So you do you. If it's a book talk video, it's a book talk video, and it doesn't have to be super polished production quality. Just make sure that there's nothing weird or embarrassing behind you. That's happened before. And maybe let your roommates know, because sometimes it's weird if somebody walks in with 2 drinks in their hand and they're like, hey man, you want a beer? And you're like, oh shh, I'm working on this project. That happens sometimes. And I get it, maybe you're home with your kids. It happens to me all the time. My daughter runs in and she's like, Mom, I want to talk to your students. She's not here right now, so it's not going to happen. But I get it. Things do happen, but try to keep them to a minimum if you can. And make sure you're addressing both ELOs. Lastly, the creative project. So I do put some limits on the creative projects on a weekly basis. And you can see those descriptions when you click into each assignment. It'll tell you this is the creative project option. So that's always a thing that you can do too. I can't really tell you too much more than that because it does change from week to week. So weekly responses are graded out of 6 points. So each ELO I'm grading out of 3. And the rubric is on the syllabus. What I'm really looking for and what a 3 would look like for each ELO is that you're considering 2 significant topics, supporting your discussion with specific details, and using professional readings to illuminate the assigned novels. And then for ELO 2, it's considering how the readings relate to their cultural influences like publication date, authorship, format, reflecting awareness of your positionality. So if you're reading it and you are a white middle-class kid who grew up in like a rural part of Ohio, that matters in the way that you read this story. That matters in how you understand the hate you give. And I would love to see that reflected and addressed in your responses. And it should be addressing adolescence as a social construct. So one thing students are really tempted to do is like they take their beliefs about adolescence and just take that as a given. They assume that that's true. The adolescents are in a time of turmoil. Like, okay, maybe not. Kind of the whole point of this class is to question that a little bit and figure out what makes us think that. So if you're looking for a 3, you need to be addressing adolescence as a social construct, not as an assumption. And you can look at the rubric basically anytime you have a rubric for this course. It's going to be the same set of criteria, but different tick boxes in terms of what's addressed. So like 2 means that you're doing A and B but not C, or A and C but not B, so and so on. Okay, peer responses. So 5 times during the semester you need to respond to a peer. You cannot do all 5 in 1 week, or 4 in 1 week, 3, 2, whatever. I'm only going to count 1 from each week. So you could do the first 5 weeks and then be done, or you could skip around. If it were me, I would probably just comb through and see if there's anything that interests me that I want to respond to, and then I would do that. So they need to be about 200 to 300 words. That's really not super long. And only 1 response from each week is going to be counted. I absolutely encourage you to go in and respond to multiple people. That's totally cool. If you're interested in the topic and interested in the content, do that. But I'm only going to count 1 from that week, so unless you mention which one you want graded, I'm just going to grade the first one I see. These are due the Tuesday after the discussion was due, so like discussions are due on Friday. The next Tuesday is the final date for peer responses. Anything that comes in after that, I'm not going to grade. And they're graded out of 3 points. There's a rubric that actually includes examples on the syllabus. So the best ones are those that engage with specific ideas from the original post, and they extend the conversation with original thoughts. So, for example, I invented a situation in which you were reading Harry Potter because I thought that would probably be familiar to a lot of you. I was specifically interested in your comment that Harry is kind of a Cinderella figure. That's a way of responding to specific details in the person's post. I had never thought of that before, and I was thinking about how that bears out over the course of the novel. Now I'm adding on with my own ideas. I think something to specifically pay attention to is the idea of the birthright. Both Cinderella and Harry are coming back to reclaim something rightfully theirs. I think that tells us a lot about persistent beliefs about social class. I'm taking my own ideas and adding to a specific thing that person said. That's the 3. That's what you're looking for. A 2 is one that engages with specific ideas or extends the conversation with original thoughts, but not both. So like, great job. That was such a cool idea about Harry as kind of a Cinderella figure. Like, you're engaging with the ideas, you're pointing out what you liked about it. Your discussion about how Hagrid is kind of the fairy godmother is a really good one, and the Dursleys totally are the evil stepmother. Like, yes, all good, but you're not adding anything original. Another example of a 2 that does the reverse is, well, I think Harry's a biblical allegory. He's like Jesus, Dumbledore's God the Father, and Fawkes is the Holy Ghost. Like, cool, that's your original idea, but you're not really responding to any specific details. You're just talking over somebody. And a 1 would be a response that doesn't engage with specific ideas from the original post or extend the conversation with original thoughts. And the best example is, good job, I totally agree with you. That's really not what we're looking for here. Everybody likes a pat on the back, but we like conversation more. Okay, on to learning reflections. So there's 2 of them, one in the middle of the term, one at the end of the term. You're going to review your own work from up to that point. And then you're going to do either a 2 to 3 page essay or a 5 to 7 minute video where you reflect on your learning arc. So the questions I'm giving you to help you direct your thinking about the ELOs are: how has your understanding of adolescent literature changed or developed? Are there any connections across weeks that you've noticed and wanted to discuss? And what do you understand better now that might have changed the way you engaged with prior material? I'm going to tell you right now that my least favorite thing to hear is, I feel like I already came in with a pretty good understanding of it, so I haven't really learned very much. If that's true, then I'm really not doing my job, and honestly, you're really not doing your job. So let's just throw that out as a possibility, not an option. The rubric that I'm going to be looking for is that you're addressing both ELOs in your response. So go back, look at those, and kind of give yourself a benchmark measurement. How am I doing on that? And you're providing specific examples of your growth. 2 would be addressing only one of the ELOs and providing specific examples of your growth, or you respond to both ELOs, but you're not really giving specific examples. And a 1 would be you're responding to only one ELO and you're not providing specific examples. All right, Student Exploration Week. Second to last week of the semester, getting ready for the final exam. You're pursuing a topic within YA literature that's super interesting to you. It has to be within YA literature, and it cannot be a novel we've already read. So during the week, you're going to read 1 young adult novel from outside the book list. You're going to choose and read 2 relevant blog posts and 1 relevant scholarly article from a peer-reviewed journal. That's something you're going to need to do through the library website. A final project proposal is due at the end of the week, including an outline of the project you plan to complete. So it's going to be like 1 or 2 pages, nothing crazy. But all of the questions that are on the syllabus are the ones you really need to address. What are you examining? What's the big takeaway? What are the book and blog post and scholarly article that you're looking at? What questions are you trying to answer? What difficulties are you anticipating? And if you do want to do a creative project for the final project, that's an option, but you need to propose that in this final project proposal. So the rubric for this: are you answering all the questions, and are the topic and text you're choosing suitable for the project? If you're answering all of the questions, but we really need to go back to the drawing board and adjust that a little bit, it might be bumped down to a 2. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's a small part of your grade. All right, and then the final project, you're presenting your findings from Student Exploration Week to your classmates. Almost think of this project as you doing my job for 1 week. You're using one of the following formats, and if you do not submit a final project, it's an automatic failure. So I want to put that out there too. You can turn in either a written essay of 4 to 5 pages, a video presentation of 8 to 10 minutes, or a creative project of your own design. So it's a total of 10 points. Each ELO is graded on a scale of 0 or 1 to 4. And then there's also 2 points for organization and clarity. I think the rubric is pretty clear. I'm going to kind of let you read that yourself. And then if you have questions about it, you can put them on the discussion board for questions, just because this is a lot to cover, and I think talking about it is going to make it less clear than just reading it. All right, for written work, everything's got to be in .doc format and double space, 12-point Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins. This isn't a writing class. I don't grade for grammar and spelling, but you have to make sure that I can understand what you're saying. So if you've got so many spelling and grammar errors that I can't understand your ideas, that will affect your grade. And then finally, my late work policy is, because there's no attendance grade, late assignments kind of become the way to measure that. So for every day that an assignment is past due, I'm going to take 1 point away. And that's, I don't like to do this, honestly. But if an assignment is due 11:59 p.m. on January 15th and you turn it in on the morning of January 16th, that's already a day late. So make sure you get your stuff in on time. And remember that I'm not grading peer responses that come in after Tuesday. I might even just set it up to close the discussions down after that date. I can make an exception if you contact me ahead of time to make prior arrangements in advance of the due date, at least a week, I would say, and if you have a verifiable reason for submitting the work late. I'm a pretty, understanding and kind person, so if you are coming to me and saying, you know what, I've got a job interview and things are really crazy and I would love a couple-day extension, as long as you've done your work and you've been pretty conscientious, I'm likely to acquiesce and help you out with that. I'm not a monster, but I do need to set some ground rules, so that's what that looks like. So if you know you're going to be out of town without internet available, I do want you to plan ahead. Submit the work early if you can, rather than try and make arrangements for late submission.